Scenes from the Spectrum podcast, a production of Philly Sports Today. We have had like a 4 or 5 week hiatus. I don't know, Justin, but it's been quite a while. But we have revamped, reconstructed the podcast, and I'm very excited to get back in the swing of things.
Yeah, especially if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that we have a brand new layout. Everything's, looking good in the future. We got some exciting stuff lined up. So everybody, welcome to episode 9 of Scenes from the Spectrum.
Against Gill, the crowd on its feet. Allen for the win.
Yes! Oh, Mark Zumoff's angelic voice in the brand new intro that we are debuting here was episode 9 of the Scenes of the Spectrum podcast. That's quite a bit, honestly. That's 9 episodes, a big milestone for us. But yeah, it's May 27th. Friday edition of the Scenes from the Spectrum podcast. The Sixers lost in the playoffs. That happened since the last time we recorded, so that's not good.
But yeah, I think the last time we recorded was in the middle of the Raptors series.
Yeah, it was,
or even before it.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, but we're here and we're here to stay. I can promise you that. But more importantly than anything that's going on with the Philadelphia 76ers, and this is no question about it because this is the most important thing in life right now. We have a new family member to the Scenes from the Spectrum podcast, and we would politely ask Tony, the producer of Scenes from the Spectrum, to show his face so the YouTube audience can really get to see and grasp Tony. There he is.
Say hello to the beautiful fans.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here. Hopefully it's a long and prosperous journey, but for right now, it's back to work.
Yeah, save your big words, SAT words for the State of the Union, which is the title of this episode, because that is the State of the Union address that will be given today. And I've got quite a bit on my mind, and I want to speak my mind, which is why we have this platform to do so. But Justin, let's talk about this playoffs just for a brief second, because they've sucked. And usually I check out after the Sixers lose, and I was kind of interested in basketball because I still wanted to see who was going to duke it out, and it wasn't like the Lakers or Nets that were dominating like I thought. So I was going to be quite interested, but I can't watch any of these games.
Yeah, after the Sixers and after the first I'd say 2 games of the conference finals on both sides, I've been so checked out. I haven't really watched much of it. Maybe the first quarter, and then it's a blowout. I'm like, I'm turning this off and I'm going back to watching Netflix. Netflix and my entertainment is way better than this product that the NBA is putting out. So
yeah, it's cooked, as the Twitter folks would say. It is definitely cooked.
Absolutely cooked.
Yes, but we're here to spice things up in your basketball world. We've got a couple headlines for today's show. Tony, hit the music. Oh, man, it's the headline music. A new debut to the show. Oh, boy, this is good headlines. First of all, since we've been gone, Joel Embiid was named to the All-NBA second team.
Boo.
He took to Twitter, not about the All-NBA second team that was controversial. Another controversial topic, he was talking about the Heat and Celtics. That took some Sixers fans into a frenzy because they didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Matisse Thybulle got an all-defensive second team. That was also controversial. Joel Embiid thinking, he kind of locked that up. Matisse Thybulle's also been a lot of trade rumors. His future in Philadelphia is up in the air. And then Joel Embiid is your MVP, the most valuable Philadelphian, of course. What else could MVP possibly mean? You're shaking your head
No. How could you make Philadelphia look any more stupid? You give Embiid, you make up a whole MVP award just for Embiid because you feel bad. I mean, come on, it's a joke. What are we, 12? This is like a participation trophy. It's very stupid, and I think me and a lot of people on Twitter kind of took our frustrations out and called this a really stupid award.
And look, there's a couple things here that I'd like to get cleared up. Right? Is the MVP is it going to be an every year thing now? Are we going to have the most valuable Philadelphian in 2023? Will it be the Joel Embiid MVP award? Like, will it be the Joel Embiid award? Like we have the Larry O'Brien, we got the Vince Lombardi. Will it be like the Joel Embiid? That's another thing I want to know. And number 3, was there like a voting process on this, or was it just handed to Embiid? Because you throw out names, you talk about most valuable Philadelphians. I would like to think like Richard Yingling or someone had a MVP type season. So none of those guys got their recognition. So there's some things that need to change in the front office here in Philadelphia. It's quite miserable at the moment. In a couple ways.
Yeah, it's I would say it's a joke. I mean, he lost MVP, and you're giving him a participation trophy. It's stupid. It's really the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and I never ever want to see this again. They just felt bad and they gave it to him, but things have been going on the past few weeks while we've been on our hiatus. Just like Joel Embiid, shaking my head, was voted second All-NBA team, which is a complete joke.
Yeah, but that's actually a real award too, and he didn't.
That's a real award.
Yeah,
and that's still a joke because, as you know, there are positions in the All-NBA teams which it should be positionless, or do it how they do it in the All-Star game with like backcourt and front court. But you had a guy that was second in MVP voting, led the league in scoring, and was the first center since Shaq to average over 30 points per game. And what does he get for it? Not an MVP. He gets second team All-NBA. It's just so stupid. It's really the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I want to talk to the voters because I think they realize that Embiid could be a forward, he could be a center. We have the people that put Embiid the center, and then Jokic the forward, and then we put people that had Embiid the forward and Jokic the center, and that hurt Embiid tremendously. If Embiid only got forward votes, he would have been the second most voted person on the team besides Jokic, which Jokic fans are like, well, he plays. There's only one center in the All-NBA team, but no, we understand it should be both Embiid and Jokic. We're not saying that it should be Embiid and not Jokic. I think the consensus around the league is that the 2 best players should make All-NBA first team, and I don't know if that's a hot take. It shouldn't be, but that's what it seems like according to some Twitter discourse that I've seen the last couple of days.
Yeah, and obviously as Sixers fans, we kind of knew that Embiid was going to be placed on the second team, but obviously with it being reality, it's just frustrating because he doesn't deserve second team. He deserves first team. He deserves nothing below first team, and it's the most frustrating thing because everything he's done this year, playing through injuries and all that, and leaving his heart out on the court. It's just disappointing, and things have to change, especially with making the All-NBA teams position lists. So obviously, Adam Silver, change your things because it's stupid. So that's all I have. That's really all I have left to say about it.
Yeah, I think everybody can agree it's stupid. There's no good way to have awards that aren't positionless in 2022. If we're being frank with the NBA, and let's be real. Did we really expect the NBA to cater towards Philadelphia with everything that's the history that's going on between Adam Silver and Philadelphia, the 76ers? I just didn't see it happening, and they're not going to go out of their way to please Philadelphia. They've made that very, very clear. So some other things that were in our headlines. Embiid took to Twitter yesterday. And Justin, I saw you respond to a Joel Embiid tweet. And you were like, Joel, what's going on, buddy? What are we doing here? And so for those of you who don't know, he made some cryptic tweets. Can we call it cryptic? Is that the right word?
I think we can.
I think that's fair, right? But we also know that he is trollel. So he's a good troller. That's what he does. That's his would I say that's his favorite pastime, trolling? is his favorite
Yes,
pastime.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
If anybody was around Twitter and through his first 3 years in the league, you would really know his trolling on Twitter. It's obviously like so much less now, but back then it was very funny.
Yes, it's his favorite pastime, without a doubt. He tweeted last night. Well, this would be what, Wednesday night. He tweeted, "Miami needs another star," and that got 100,000. Like that was over 100,000 likes. People were really thinking like he was meaning something. And he tweeted that, and he said Boston just has too many weapons, which only got 25,000 likes. But the one that really sent people into a frenzy is that Miami needs another star. Joel Embiid being a star, you kind of put two and two together. And the other part of that, Joel Embiid is a troll, and he's just sitting back and laughing at what everybody is saying. And then he later tweeted, "Okay, y'all are stupid, LMAO," with 4 crying laughing emojis. So I think he kind of put all the rumors and the speculation to bed right there with that tweet.
Yeah, obviously he's reading the replies if he's tweeting that, but
And I think he reads. I think he reads the replies all the time. If you watch his JJ Redick podcast, or last year when he had he missed the All-Star game, and he was tweeting out like Mickey Bass All-Star. I think he's a reply reader, like without a doubt.
And he tweets out ratio and stuff. He's a prime Twitter user. I'll call it that. But he made a very good point though. Miami does need another star to really compete for a championship. All jokes aside, they really do. I mean, they just star power wins championships, and Miami Heat outside of Jimmy Butler just do not have that, and it's not enough to win a championship. And I fully expect Boston to take this series.
And the problem with Miami that I have is that they have a star, and it's Jimmy Butler, and he's a great, phenomenal basketball player. But I just don't think that when your star's weakness is his three-point shot, it's going to be tough to go far in playoffs. And I know that Jimmy can make threes, and he did against the Sixers, but it's not, it. And you look at his game, it's his weakness, definitely not a strength for Jimmy Butler, which I think he's a phenomenal Pippen, but he's no Jordan. I think that's a fair assessment of Jimmy Butler. So another thing in the news. We'll speak about defense because Jimmy Butler has good defense, but someone apparently who has better defense, and that is Matisse Thybulle. He got all defensive second team. Joel Embiid not on the list, and if you watch any Sixers games at any moment of this season, any time that Joel Embiid was on the floor and Matisse Thybulle, you know who the better defensive player is, and by default, that should be the rim protector that Joel Embiid is, and he did not get an all-defensive team selection.
Yeah, and if you were to go back and look at the voting, he was right outside of making that second team. He was right behind. I think it was Draymond Green. Was it?
I think it was around there, and Draymond missed some time too, so he's usually like a lock for first team.
Yeah. What I have to say about it is the people who can kind of critique and rate Matisse like as most perfect as Sixers fans, because we watch him 82 games plus playoffs. We know how bad he is and how much of an overrated defender he is.
Yes.
Talk about a gambling defender. He was probably the most frustrating player to watch on the court for the Sixers because, obviously he has no offense, but his defense is just so overrated by just like nice highlights that get posted on Twitter and stuff. But yes, the stats, if you look at him, he had a fine defensive season, but if you were to watch the actual games, he did not have a good season all around, and even defensively.
If you look at Matisse on defense, he gambles more than Sixers D. He just doesn't make good decisions when he's out there defensively. I just don't think his style of play warrants all defensive second team because he has so many lapses, so many times where he just makes poor decisions because he gets a little overzealous on the defensive end, and he gets blown by the best guards that are ball dominant. So he just doesn't have that lockdown ability. But he can chase you around, get under your skin a bit, make some cool steals, some blocks from behind. He has that type of stuff that not everybody has, and he's a very, very unique defender. I would argue he's the most unique defender in the NBA. And I think that's a big reason why he's getting these all defensive awards when there was no point at all this season when he was the best defender on the team. And Joel Embiid did not get an all defensive award. And I think that if he really wanted to, he could win Defensive Player of the Year, but we're counting on him to score 30 points a game. So that's kind of out of the realm at this point for Joel Embiid. Also,
Yeah,
Matisse Thybulle, though, I want to talk about his trade rumors. What are you making of these trade rumors?
it's like honestly the greatest thing I've heard in the past few weeks. Obviously, I just want him gone. The Chicago Bulls are a rumored team to have interest in Matisse Thybulle in this coming offseason, which would be they have a lot of great like role players such as like, and I know he's inefficient, but like a guy like Kobe White, maybe you could pull off a Alex Caruso trade, or maybe pull off a mega trade package with Zach LaVine, or like a sign and trade with Zach LaVine since he is becoming a free agent. But
I tell you, mega trade and LaVine, that's speaking my language right there.
LaVine would be a great guy on this team. But
yes,
yeah, those are like Kobe White and Alex Caruso are two guys that come to my head first. What are some guys that come to your head first?
I really don't know what his worth is, and I've seen a lot of things on Twitter, and you never know what's real and what's not. But I've seen Luke Dort, and
I have also seen that.
Yeah, I would like Luke Dort because if you look at Sam Presti, you throw in a couple first round picks, you give him someone that's similar to Matisse Thybulle. He's more or less on the timeline of the Thunder. I don't think it'll I think it's unrealistic. The Sixers and Thunders will never make a deal like that because Lou Dort is way more value than Matisse Thybulle. But it's a weird topic because nobody knows his value because he's either extremely overrated or people are kind of real about it, or they're like emotional, like he sucks. Not saying that you're emotional and that he sucks, but you kind of are, Justin. You got to give him some fairness that he's a very unique defender.
I only critique him so hard because I know what he can be.
Yes,
and he is like you rarely see defenders like this come around. He is so good, but I am frustrated with him so much because of how much he gambles, and my frustrations boil over into the defensive end with his offensive struggles.
There's no doubt about it.
Him, breaking through every time he takes a three, I yell at the TV, "Oh my God, watch out! He's taking a three." So yeah, but talking about OKC, another possible trade package we could talk about in a little bit is Tobias Harris, getting that contract off of the Sixers, but we can move on to the State of the Union.
Look,
now,
come on. This is what I live for.
We have some things to say about, what's upcoming for this team, and Graham, I'll let you start.
Look, State of the Union, it's the title of the episode. Episode 9, State of the Union. You've seen it. If you're listening, watching, you know what it is right here. And look, I'm going to set the record straight. Season did not meet my expectations. I don't think it met any Sixers fans' expectations. I wanted the Eastern Conference Finals. We did not get an Eastern Conference Finals. I wanted that before the season. I wanted that when we traded for Harden, and I wanted that in the playoffs with James Harden. None of those expectations were met at any time of the season. A lot of things happened this season. We had a roster construction of Embiid and others, and then Embiid got COVID, and it was just a bunch of role players. I'm going to be honest, I really didn't watch during that stretch of games, and that was because of me. I've been around this team a lot longer, and I was, beating my mental health before it beat me. So that really sucked that he was out and didn't play for a little while, and our team wasn't good. We were losing, so I didn't watch, didn't even bother. But I got drawn back in, and I just want to take a moment. And this season was fun, even though it ended in a pretty bad way, and came to a screeching halt. But we got to remember the fallen. Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, the two that come to mind, Sixers legends, forever Sixers legend. And I would do anything to get those guys back in Philadelphia as soon as possible to be on this team. But first, I want to talk about Andre Drummond, who came in. He had beef with Embiid, and they gelled from day one. And I go back to like the Pacers game where you had Embiid and Drummond both on the court, and they were both playing dominant ball during the season. That was a time where we couldn't get offensive rebounds to save our life because Embiid has the most unique shot diet in the league. So he's taking all of our offensive shots. We have nobody to get offensive rebounds. And Andre Drummond was there to get some of those. And it was just so fun, that team. And Drummond played well. I mean, he was pulling shots out the wazoo sometimes. You're like,
most memorable Andre Drummond moment.
He had a poster dunk, like a lob, and it's in my Snapchat memories. And I remember it very, very vividly because in my Snapchat memory, you can hear my dad's reaction in the back. He's like, "Whoa!" So I'm gonna have to find that somewhere. But Seth Curry, I think that phenomenal, right? Just phenomenal. You can't say anything bad about him. That he's just what he did in Atlanta carried that over. I was in Atlanta for the game in the regular season when we won, and Embiid had the somersault, and I was going nuts in Atlanta in front of that crowd. And Steph Curry picked up right where he left off, and he's just a great guy, great locker room guy. It really sucked that he had to go, and it wasn't Matisse Thybulle. I think we can safely say that right now. So those are the guys that you really miss. But I would also recognize players that you forgot played. Tyler Johnson, Willie Cauley-Stein, Sixers legends. Tyler Johnson actually liked, I think that he played 3 games, I think, maybe.
Willie Cauley-Stein, they played 5 minutes?
6 minutes. I looked it up. He played 6 minutes this year. So yeah, Tyler Johnson, I kind of liked him, but he played 3 games. And also the G Leaguers that were called up to the varsity squad. Shout out Paul Reed, my guy, Paul Reed, Isaiah Joe, Jaden Springer, Aaron Henry, Braxton Key, many others that made their way up from Delaware. And I think that's really cool to see those guys. And before I move on to the next part, if you're on YouTube, you can kind of see this is Andre Drummond posterizing Jakob Poeltl. It's in my Snapchat memories. That's my favorite Drummond moment of the season. But anyways, a player that completely turned his season around this year, that's Tobias Harris. I mean, I'm so happy with the way that he played, and he was able to raise his level down the stretch when the Sixers needed the most. He caught COVID early in the season, and it was catching him later after that. He was feeling the effects forever. That gave him a hard time, extended period of time where he was just abysmal. He was terrible, and that overlapped with us getting Harden, and he really did not adapt to getting Harden really well. But he did. He overcame that, and he was really, really good in the playoffs, a lot better than he ever has been with the Sixers since we traded for him when he was at the Clippers. So I was really happy with the way that Tobias Harris was able to play confident and turn around his season. Next, James Harden. He had his moments, for sure. Had his moments. I was jumping up, almost doing cartwheels half naked down my street. He got me so hyped sometimes, right? Just the way that he plays, and we've never really had a point guard that can play the way he does. And I will never forget first game back as a Sixer, first game, this debut in Minnesota. I'll never forget that. The joy I had, overwhelming with James Harden. And game 4 versus the Heat, that's why we made the trade for James Harden. I mean, this guy really put on a show, but that hamstring injury really damaged my overview of the season, because was it actually the reason why he was so passive, why he wasn't doing step back threes, why he was not as aggressive as we usually see, or is that James Harden just being old? So I want a full offseason for James Harden to fully assess him, if that makes sense. And that's, it's kind of a damage on James Harden's season, because is the hamstring injury that big of a deal? It's a question to be asked. And nobody has the answer, so I don't expect anybody to answer that. Anyways, Tyrese Maxey, the most improved player last season, 8 points per game. This season, 17.5 points per game. Watching this guy grow, watching him be mentored by James Harden was one of the best things. And my favorite Tyrese Maxey moment against the Bucks. Actually, I take that back. My second favorite Tyrese Maxey moment against the Bucks this season, where James Harden was coaching him from the sidelines, and you could see that he was keen on mentoring Tyrese Maxey, and that really helped him. Favorite Tyrese Maxey moment, come on. Against the Grizzlies, that layup at the end of the game. Come on. I was levitating. That was one of the best moments of the whole season right there. But to look forward to the future, a lot of rumors are about the trades. We talked about Matisse Thybulle. And there are a couple players that I say are untouchable, that being Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and James Harden. And that's it. I would like to bring back Tobias, but if the price is right, you got to say bye-bye, Toby. You got to say bye-bye if the price is right. But the people that should not be back, and that is Doc Rivers and Matisse Thybulle for obvious reasons. I think everybody can connect the dots right there. But I really think that this season in Daryl Morey, we need to sign and or trade for some players with that dog in them. We always talk about the players with the dog in them. Yeah, we need some blue collar ballers. That's what I'm calling them. Blue collar ballers. And that's what we need. We need some Pat Bev, some Marcus Morris, some guys like that. And that can really just, put some grit in this team that we need. We need some tough guys, as Joel Embiid would say. And I think that's a necessity for this team moving forward. And unlike many Sixers fans, I still have a lot of faith in Daryl Morey. I really do. People criticize him much more than they should. Like, the guy does a lot of good. You talk about what he did in his very first offseason, getting Danny Green and getting rid of Al Horford, drafting Tyrese Maxey. And then you look at what he's done, getting rid of Ben Simmons, getting James Harden. I'm putting my full trust in him. We want to get some great role players. That's it. Great role players. Not a third star. Embiid, Maxey, Harden, that's enough. And to wrap this up, expectations, same as last year. Eastern Conference Finals, because I've never seen one in my life. And that is my State of the Union address for the Sixers.
Now, my State of the Union would have to be, if I had one word to describe this season, would be the most insane roller coaster ever. Obviously, that's not one word, but if I had to go one word, it'd be roller coaster.
It's a phrase. It's a phrase.
Phrase.
Yeah.
If I had to describe this season in a phrase, it would be the most insane roller coaster ever. I mean, you can go all the way back to last summer with the Ben Simmons stuff and, the stress about that and all the reports coming out, honestly, weekly about him and he won't show up. And, people wanted to visit him and he said no. And, he was demanding a trade. And, that hurt us Philly fans. But honestly, we already hated him at that point. So it didn't really matter to us. But, you look at the season as a whole, and obviously it wasn't a success as we wanted Eastern Conference Finals to call the season a success, but you saw a spurt out of guys like Maxey and you didn't even think Embiid could improve after his season last year, but he did, especially with his playmaking and took his scoring to a whole nother level. But big shout out to Tobias Harris because I wanted him long gone in the beginning of the season. And then, in the last quarter of the season, he was balling out, giving it his all, raising his trade value and saying, don't start clapping now. You remember that game? Don't
how could we forget?
Game. Yeah, and then after that game, he kind of was going off.
Like he had that last year against the Lakers where he was like, I'm an all-star.
Yeah, gotta throw that little F-bomb in there from him. But I wasn't satisfied as much as I'd like to be with this season. Obviously, we had our high points, but we really had a lot of really low points. We had the COVID era with the Sixers in the beginning of the year. We had the first 2 weeks where Embiid just couldn't hit a shot to save his life. I remember we couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. But we saw growth from plenty of guys like B-Ball Paul. Charles Bassey was showing a lot of promise, but obviously later in the season, Doc refused to play him. But, there was a lot of pressure on Daryl Morey to kind of make moves, get rid of Ben Simmons and bring a star home. And he did exactly that. I guess I could say I was a tiny bit disappointed in James Harden, but there is some excuses for that. I mean, his hamstring, getting used to a new team, and all that. But my one problem with how Doc ran this team with James Harden is, you saw how unstoppable this team looked right when he first got here. And, we had no game plan. That's literally why. We didn't really have a game plan, set plays, anything. And James Harden did it all himself. He made Maxey look like an all-star. He was giving Embiid the easiest looks of his life. But as, he became accustomed to Doc's playbook and and the sets he ran and all that, this team kind of came to a halt in their ceiling, which I kept saying we should go back to how we were playing the first few games. But what we need to do to move forward is either, unload Tobias Harris' contract to either OKC or find a team with a lot of money that can take it on and, get a decent role player back, maybe like a dog, as Graham was saying earlier. But this team needs to make changes and fill the holes, and this offseason is a perfect opportunity to do that. You don't know how many years you're going to get left of James Harden. You don't know how many years you're going to get left of Joel Embiid. So it's kind of do or die for this next season. I've been saying all this past season that, this season coming up is our season. But obviously, trade a guy like Matisse Thybulle to another team, get some real dogs, or instead of getting some dogs, you go for something that wins championships, and that's star power. Some guys that, I've seen some talks on Twitter about, a guy like Zach LaVine or a guy like Brad Beal. I'd take Zach LaVine over Bradley Beal any time of the day, but that's just Daryl Morey has a lot on his plate this coming off season. You need to build your bench. You need to replace Tobias Harris if you're going to do that. But if you're keeping Tobias Harris, you don't have much money to work with, so you got to do what you got to do. But that's really all I have to say for my State of the Union address. This season was a mess, but shout out, like you did, shout out to Seth Drummond and all the guys that stepped up. But yeah, that's all I got to say. That's my State of the Union, and let's move forward.
Beautiful State of the Union address. Beautiful. And shout out Charles Bassey as well. That was big time from Charles Bassey. What he did second half in Denver against Jokic. One of the favorite moments of the season.
Yeah.
All right, for the third leg of the State of the Union address, we would ask Tony to politely show his beautiful face on the screen for our YouTube audience. If you're not on YouTube, it is Scenes from the Spectrum. You can go there and you can watch us. We've got previous episodes on there, so if you want to binge that, feel free for that. So, Tony, your State of the Union for the Sixers.
Obviously, I don't have some big thing like Graham or Justin did. I just want to get over kind of a few points. Doc Rivers, he's got to go. Doc Rivers, he's got to go. It doesn't seem like it's going to be this offseason, unfortunately, with everything we've seen. I know the Lakers were in on him. Doesn't seem like it's going that way now.
Trade Doc.
Hey, if we can trade Doc, I don't know what we could get from the Lakers or if we'd even want anything from the Lakers. Because they're obviously in a worse position than we are. In terms of the current roster, I actually like a lot of the guys we do have. It's just a matter of playing them. Obviously, you got guys like Paul Reed, Charles Bassey. I'd like to see a lot more of Isaiah Joe next season. I think he could be actually like what Matisse Thybulle is, better. He plays better defense from what I've seen. Sure, it's not the flashy, blocks, steals and stuff, but he will stay in front of, the opposing player, which is honestly kind of what we need. And he's probably a better three-point shooter. He's a little streaky, but whatever. We don't need a star, in my opinion. I do understand what you guys are saying about players like Donovan Mitchell, Zach LaVine. I think Maxi's the third star. We need a better bench. Obviously, the guys that I mentioned previously, they're fine, but obviously they're not enough. Graham said need more dogs and need more athletes. I believe Charlie Brown Jr. was probably the most athletic player we had coming off the bench last season. And if you watch Sixers games, in 2022, he really didn't play much. obviously Maxi's like fast, Matisse is Matisse, which isn't saying much. But not many athletes outside of what we have starting. If they get rid of Tobias, they get rid of Tobias. It's not a big deal. I was early season, like Justin, a big, big hater of Tobias Harris. But I kind of was falling in love with his play a little bit, end of the season, into the playoffs. So depending on the package, I won't be mad, but it is a lot of money to shed. It is a huge contract. But this is Daryl Morey's. This is the offseason for Daryl Morey. We can't have any questions going into next season, or we shouldn't have any questions going into next season. This needs to be his masterclass. Like this next season is a season I was looking for once we got James Harden. Obviously, hamstring injury is a big thing. He'll hopefully get that right, but the rest of it comes down to Daryl Morey. So that's kind of all I have.
Thank you, Tony. We appreciate you.
We appreciate the input, and I love how you brought up Isaiah Joe. I mean, I'm such a big Isaiah Joe fan. Obviously, he let me down this season. I mean, he didn't get a lot of play, but when he did, he didn't really, show that he should be out there.
I think he's a rhythm guy, though. He needs a rhythm, and he never got a rhythm. Once he gets a rhythm, he's good, and we saw that during the season. Like he was showing glimpses of rhythm. Like if you watch the summer league, I mean, he's like Steph Curry once he gets in a rhythm. But
I remember our last year our summer league super team.
Yeah, it was fabulous. I loved every second of the summer league, and that was like the first time I had watched basketball or even looked at a basketball after the Hawks series. So that was a good refresher. None of us mentioned Danny Green in our thing. I don't think so.
No, yeah, we didn't.
And I would like to speak on Danny because I think that we saw the last time he'll ever play professional basketball, and it will be with the Sixers uniform. And I think that he has nothing left to prove. He lets everybody know he's won 3 rings, so he's done that. He's been to the top of the mountain 3 times. Phenomenal player, the back end of his career, and he's also like really involved in the media, the sports media. I think he's going to turn into like a JJ Redick with the podcast and going on First Take and stuff like that. I think he's got he likes to talk a lot, so maybe the locker room kind of is giving him the. You know what I mean? For those of you watching on YouTube, you know what I mean. So I think it's probably the end of the line for Danny.
Yeah. I unfortunately was working for like the first half of game 5 it was game 6 of the Sixers first heat. I saw everybody saying, "Oh no, Danny" on Twitter. I was like, "Oh, what's happening now?" And as soon as I saw the clip of what happened to Danny, I'm like, "Oh, his career's done. Like he's done. He's 35, covering from I think it was ACL and his LCL. Correct me if I'm wrong.
He blew that up, man. I don't think he has a knee anymore, to be honest. It's just
it was really bad.
Straight metal.
It was very bad. I don't think at that age, I don't see how you could come back and be the same player you were. Obviously, big shout out to Danny Green. He got us out of many tough spots that we were in. We all call him Mr. 3 Rings man.
Yes.
But he really gave it his all, especially in the last 2 seasons. He had his cold spots, of course. Every shooter is going to go through that, but when it was time to get down to business and give it your all, he was that guy. And especially this year's playoffs, he really gave it all for us. I mean, the one game where he was going off, and he had plenty of games like that. But big shout out to Danny. We love you, but unfortunately, it's probably the end of his career.
Yeah, I think it's the end of Danny Green. So it's bittersweet. I think that I really missed him last year in the Hawks series. And I would just anything to go back. It would be for Danny Green to play in that Hawks series of last season. Another thing, James Harden contract for this offseason, I expect him to take the option of $43 million. I think everybody expects that.
And if he
Because
takes that option, it would make Joel Embiid the third highest player on the 76ers team.
And I think that there's a stipulation to him taking the option. I think that you work out both. He takes the option and you work out a long-term extension on a team-friendly deal. I think that's the route they're going to go. James Harden recognizes that he's not James Harden anymore. Daryl Morey, if he doesn't recognize it, something's very wrong, and I'm sure he recognizes it. And everybody else knows that James Harden did nothing to deserve max money at all. I mean, he played great, but he wasn't max. And we can't afford to have two max players that don't deserve maxes, and that's really going to put you in a hole for like 7 years. And I ain't planning on doing that. So I think that you could give him the $43 million, let him get a player option. It's up to him. So I promise you he's going to take it, but you also have to work out a team-friendly, non-max 4-year deal for James Harden. I think he retires a Sixer.
So do I. Yeah, I think if you're James Harden, you have to take this team-friendly deal, especially if you're running out of time to win a championship. But how much money do you think he would take, or like how much less on an extension?
I really that's tough because you feel like it's going to be back-ended, right? The contract, because he's going to get $43 million in the last year of his current deal because he has the player option. So you feel like it's going to be back-ended where it builds back up. So he's going to get less in like the first 2 years and then a lot more in the last couple. I feel like that's probably the best financial decision for the Sixers. And James Harden, like $7 million isn't hurting him at all. So I think he retires a Sixer. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't know, Danny Green's contract for next year most of it is not guaranteed.
Yes.
So obviously it sucks that Danny Green's out, but it's good that it's not guaranteed, so we can use that money for something else and sign as a solid role player. And
well, I mean, you might need some money because you look at Pat Bev, who's getting 13 mil or someone like that. So I think you really, really got to be stingy with the money.
Yeah, and Daryl Morey really has to give it his all this year if he wants to win a ring with James Harden. I think this year is the year. It is the year. Obviously, you can look at 2019 and say that was the year we got. I don't even want to talk about it with the Raptors, but
I mean,
but this is really
I think,
this is the year that we have to really win a championship, and things have to be spot on. Things have to be perfect. We need everything to work out in our favor. It's just things have to go our way, just for once, just our way.
Yeah, I think you got to get lucky. That's the main thing. If you can be a good team and get lucky, you're gonna make a shot at the finals. And the Sixers, they've had good teams, they've had bad teams. None of them have been lucky. So I think that's the main thing, is that we need a lot of luck the next off season and the playoffs for certain. Tony, you don't have to show your face or anything, but I want to get your thoughts on Danny Green. Is his career over?
From everything I've seen, I believe it's an ACL and LCL injury, according to CBS. I don't see if this is the last year on his deal, correct?
No,
next year.
I mean, this next year. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't see how any team would give him I mean, he might get a roster spot. He's probably getting the minimum if he goes anywhere at all, but I can't see any team really giving him real minutes coming off of obliterating your leg. And he's, like, as you said, he's already 35. So
yeah, and he will get a contract, but it's going to be from like ESPN or highlights. He might get an ESPN contract
to use. That was a great word to use. He did literally obliterate his leg.
Yeah, like
it's watching gone. It was
like there's no need.
You knew like instantly.
Yeah. But moving on, if you have any Sixers things left to say it now before we move on to talk about the snooze fest in the conference finals.
I want to say that Doc Rivers the countdown. The countdown's on, buddy. Count your days.
Count your days.
You ain't gonna be here much longer, fella. If you are, I'll be very, very mad. But before we move on, I want to ask you a question. Who could he go to? A, and B, who could replace him?
One guy I've been wanting as the head coach all year, Mr. Sam Cassell. I mean, he's a great coach, a really good leader, and I think we would, kind of glow with him and as our leader. I don't think Doc has it. I don't think Doc has a hold on the locker room. As you saw in the post-game press conference after Game 6, James, when asked a question about Doc Rivers, James Harden just said, "Next question." So, I think there is some problems in that locker room, and I think it starts with Doc Rivers. So I think, a little change of leadership could help, especially, Sam Cassell. But where would Doc Rivers go? The Lakers. Give us a second-round pick. I don't care. Give me $1. Give me a bag of chips. Give me a gift card to Chick-fil-A. I don't care. Doc Rivers needs to leave. But yeah, that's really all I have left to say.
Yeah, trading Doc Rivers would be hilarious. I think that'd be the ultimate funniest day on Sixers Twitter in a long time. If Doc Rivers legitimately like he gets traded, like a coach gets traded to a team and we get something in return. I mean, I would throw a second-round pick on Doc.
Yeah, I would throw anything on Doc, man. I'd do anything.
I don't want a second-round pick from you. I want to give you a second round to take Doc. And I think Sam Cassell is the most obvious answer. And you've got a lot of good coaches in that assistant coaching room, and I want to see them cook. Let's see what they got. Don't be under the shadow of Doc Rivers, old washed up bald guy. Let be yourself. Be Dave Yeager. Be Sam Cassell. Be the assistant coaching staff that I think is the best in the NBA. You talk about assistants. So I think that's the direction. I think the Lakers is the only destination for him. And does LeBron want Doc Rivers? There's a possibility LeBron wants Doc Rivers because LeBron, people think that he the GM, whatever. He's not gonna be a good GM. The teams that he constructs, I really don't see him being a good GM. So I feel like that would be a bonehead LeBron move to say I want Doc Rivers, because it's basically like last year saying I want Russell Westbrook. Is it not the same thing?
It is the same
saying
thing.
You want a washed up Russell Westbrook. The next season be I want a washed up Doc Rivers.
He's not even washed up. He was just never.
He's just bad. Yeah.
He's literally just bad.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a funny concept when you get LeBron in on things on the Lakers.
Yeah. Just to switch the subject for a second, we got Mr. Braves fan Graham over here, losing.
Let's not pull me on blast.
Losing to the Phillies right now, so
lost. They lost to one, and Aaron Nola pitched a gem. Nola was on the bump, and he was pitching his, yeah, I like Aaron Nola, so that's good for him. He pitched 8 1/3. So I know we're a Sixers podcast, but I very, very much appreciate good pitching, and Aaron Nola did that for the Phillies. The series split 2-2, so both teams came in struggling and they got nothing out of it because it's 2-2. What'd you do? You did absolutely nothing. And I tweeted that. I literally tweeted that. It's so obvious it's going to be a 2-2 split, 4-game series. Both teams are below 500. They need to make some ground. They have a 4-game series. What do? They go 2-2. It's so obvious. It's the NL East in a nutshell. The last 4 days. Anyways, back to basketball.
Yes. The conference finals. Talk about an absolute snooze fest. I mean, blowouts after blowouts after blowouts. Have we had one close game in the conference finals?
I don't think so. Have
yeah.
You? So have you seen one? I've been looking everywhere for them, and I haven't seen it.
The conference finals are on. All right, let me go back to bed. It's just been bad, and it's really bad for the NBA because it's this product that you're putting out has just been horrific, and I bet the ratings are very low. I mean, who wants to watch a blowout? I know I don't. I know I'd rather watch whatever show on Netflix or whatever streaming platform. Even I'll watch YouTube all night. I'll literally go to sleep at 7 p.m. when the game starts. I don't care. I do not want to watch a washed up product like that.
And I think baseball has been very interesting, and hockey playoffs I've been watching a lot. So my interest has not been on the conference finals. I'll
Yes.
peep in. Like if the game's close, it just rarely has been. I'll peep in for a little bit. And if like Luka, I know like last series he was kind of going off, but if like I see the timeline like in all caps say Klay Thompson and like Klay Thompson did something, I'll turn it on and see what Klay Thompson did, and then I'll turn it back to whatever I was watching. You know, it's something that I'm just like just a little dabble of entertainment here and there, but it just hasn't been good. And I want to watch the finals. Like I want to watch the finals. Like I'm going to watch the finals, and I really, 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 really do not want it to be blowouts. Like I tell you this, a 5-game series of 5 tightly contested games is astronomically better than a 7-game series, and 6 of them are blowouts.
Yes. Like, you know, if you would have asked me if there was basketball on tonight, I would have said I have no idea. But, you know, at halftime, you know, it's a 17-point game. Like, who in the world?
I think everybody knew the Warriors are going to win tonight.
Yeah,
so.
But who in the world wants to watch that? It's just it is just like the worst conference finals, like, in recent memory, like from all that I can remember.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, usually you see this is like the time where it kind of gets nuts. Like it's like last year you had the Hawks creep up. You're like, there's no way the Hawks are gonna be in the finals, right? Like there's no way the Atlanta Hawks are going to the finals. And they made you believe for a split second because Trae Young was.
They made it competitive.
They did. And you look at previous the best conference finals I think in history of basketball in my lifetime is going to be the Western Conference Finals between KD and Steph Curry. Yep. And you look at the Thunder blowing the 3-1, and that just dismantles OKC for the rest of their history of a franchise. I mean that's conference finals, and I think that you look at what it's now and it's just not the same.
And, kind of moving on to the next round, the NBA Finals. What is your prediction for the matchup and the winner? And give me your series score.
Oh, conference finals? I mean,
the NBA Finals.
The NBA Finals, sorry. I mean, Warriors would be one for sure because they're winning. So, and I'm going to say Celtics. And so I'm going to say Warriors in 6, and I want to be very, very tightly contested.
Yeah, my opinion, has kind of been changing a little bit over the past, I'd say, month. I mean, I did have the Celtics going really far, but I do have the Celtics in the finals with the Warriors, but I have the Larry O'Brien trophy coming back to Golden State. And I think that's going to go to 7 games. I really believe we're going to get seven games in that series. But, in Game 7, Golden State takes it home on their – they wouldn't be on their home court, right? Because the Celtics are the higher seed.
Would they be? I really have no clue. I think the Celtics would be that. Did they have a better record than the Warriors? I think so, because the Warriors, they hit a rough stretch.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the Celtics would be home for Game 7. But I do have the Warriors winning this year's finals, and that's 4 rings for Mr. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And,
actually, the Warriors would have home court because they had 53 wins and the Celtics had 51.
Okay. Yeah, I do have all Steph, Klay, and Draymond getting their 4th ring, and I'm a big fan of Jordan Poole, so it'll be pretty cool to see him get a ring so early in his career. But yeah, I mean, I don't really care who wins. I do. Well, okay. Well, I said that way too fast.
I very much care who wins, and it's going to be the Warriors.
Not the Celtics. I just can't be the Celtics.
No, not even the Heat. Like, if it's the Warriors and Heat, I am full on dub nation.
I could live.
No, There's
I
no
can
way.
live with it.
There's no way. Heat
I
fans?
couldn't live with the Celtics.
No, I get obviously
I
you can't
couldn't
live.
live.
No.
I
Here's
couldn't live with
my
the
gripe. My
Celtics.
gripe with that is there's way too many Eagles fans that are also Heat fans, and I just couldn't get into any Eagles discourse with somebody that has like 2022 NBA champions in their bio. Like I could not. I just can't do that, right? And so that's my gripe with the Heat winning is that I dislike getting into Eagles conversations with people that are also Heat fans. Those are also the guys that like hate on Jalen Hurts. So it just makes it pisses me off, quite frankly. So that's I'm Dub Nation all the way. Like I'm gonna be the lock in Dub Nation. I'm Steph Curry's biggest fan.
Obviously I don't want the Heat or Celtics to win, but if I had to live with an Eastern Conference team winning the finals, I would have to live with the Heat, and I could not live with the Celtics winning a championship. I just couldn't do it. But obviously, I do think the Warriors take it home, and I am very much rooting for them.
Me too.
So I think is there anything else you have left to say?
We pretty much
talks, literally anything?
We covered it all pretty much.
All right.
But tune in next week because we have a segment that we're gonna debut. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. I don't want to call it a segment.
Listen, it's
like
secret.
A list. It's a list. It's a list
that I don't even know what it is.
Me and Tony know. It's me and Tony's secret right now. But we've got something in the works, and it is very well thought out. It's also hilarious, and it's gonna be fun if you tune in. So we got good things. Which way? This down. You'll see like a Twitter logo, and you'll see our @ do that. Like type that in, follow us, keep up with all of our stuff, because we're gonna be very active on there. So yeah, that's big time, man. That's we gotta get that Twitter stuff going. And we're gonna be your favorite Sixers account. You're gonna forget we're a podcast half the time, that we're so good of a Sixers account, and that you're gonna look at it and be like, oh yeah, those guys have a podcast.
Yeah, we're becoming more active on all on our socials, especially Twitter. We're going to be coming back on TikTok. We've literally only posted one TikTok, but we're coming back to it. Instagram, we're going to be trying to post on there maybe once every other day. But Twitter, we're going to be posting every day. Make sure you guys are checking out all the socials. We have a link tree in our YouTube link, also our Twitter bio. If you guys are watching or listening, thank you guys for making it so far into this episode. Make sure to put the notifications on, leave a like, a rating, whatever you have to do to get this going. And thank you guys so much for tuning into episode 9 of Scenes from the Spectrum.
And let us know what you think of Tony, and tell us how good he is, because it's his debut. We want to make him feel welcome. So if you're in the comments, we need, Tony is this, Tony's that. Keep it positive in a good light for Tony.
Leave your Tony thoughts.
Uplift his spirits.
Leave a Tony rating, whatever you want. But
yeah, like a Tony rating out of 10.
Yeah, huge shout out to Tony for helping us out. And,
he's a 10 out of 10. There's no doubt about it.
Make sure you guys are tuning in next week for episode 10. We got some special stuff planned, like the segment that I don't know about.
Oh, it's fabulous.
It's grand secret. So
thank you guys. This morning, me and Tony spent like an hour just laughing our head off.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.